Charlotte, thanks for the opportunity here. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I'm going to spend the next sort of hour talking through aspects around generative AI. So my name's Steve Dorward. I'm an ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning Implementation Consultant, bit of a mouthful, Enterprise and Solution Architect. And as we go through this, it'll become clear I've been dabbling sort of, I think one of my ex-colleagues coined me as an AI wrangler. I challenge anyone to be an AI expert, as in artificial intelligence, partly because it's too wide, it's too deep, and it's too fast moving. So my first top tip is anyone that says they're an AI expert, ask them, well, what do you mean by that? And that's my first sort of prod to that. So some slides I'm going to share up here. It is going to be interactive. I will jump between the slide deck and Zoom, but Charlotte can maybe signpost any questions that come in. We will take questions through this. If you can sort of put in a question, just maybe bracket it with question at the end so we know it's a question. I will be running a couple of polls through this session just to try and make it interactive to give you a sense of these tools. This isn't a two-way conversation, much like anything else with generative AI, if you've dabbled into that. And again, I've been working with various different organizations over the past sort of 2 or 3 years in different guises with artificial intelligence. So we're all at different stages of understanding how artificial intelligence will come and affect us. So this is my sort of steer on it. So upfront, full disclosure. I won't read out all of the lines because you can hopefully read it for yourself. But full disclosure: 5 liters of water, some carbon emissions, and numerous coffees were consumed producing these slides. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, generative AI is very intensive in terms of its usage of data and compute. So data centers need fresh water to power them. So that's a very key thing. There's lots of different forms of artificial or synthetic intelligence. I always steer this to say that you have to have human oversight for them and then understand the one you're talking about. Now, I won't sort of steal the thunder of my own poll later on, but I'm going to focus today on generative AI, or generative artificial intelligence. I fully qualify that acronym because when I was talking with someone at the Environment Agency in Scotland, he was a farmer. And if you're a farmer, AI means something very different. It's not artificial intelligence, which will become clear maybe a bit later on. So, I have no product to sell here. I have no vendor affiliation. I don't work for OpenAI. I don't work for Microsoft. I don't work for Google. I've used with many tools. So I'm going to throw lots at you today. As Charlotte says, the session will be recorded. We have the Slack channel open as well for AI. So any questions we can follow on from that if we can't answer them all today. So again, please put it all into the Zoom chat so that Charlotte and myself and others involved in that channel can sort of guess in terms of that. And as far as possible, this is a lunch and learn, and I inject a lot of humour as far as possible. Yes, I'm in the work today, but I'm on my lunch, so it's up to me how I behave. A very quick shout out at the start. So no such thing as a free lunch. I'm a shareholder in a company called Brewdog, which you may have heard of. They've done some limited edition whiskey. If anyone's interested in this, all the proceeds are going to my son's school. I'm raising a little bit of money for him to go off and do some outward bound stuff. If anyone's interested, please drop me a DM, but that's my little ask of you ahead of the session. So let's jump in. So why am I qualified to talk about artificial intelligence to you today? So lots of stuff I could write down, lots of words there. I've been using commercial artificial intelligence, machine learning and automation since 2018. I worked at Lloyd's Banking Group and we introduced elements of machine learning with IBM Watson and Workday, if you're familiar with those two solutions, both cloud-based, very early days in terms of commercial use. So this was very pre anything to do with generative AI. I've done some circa 35 courses on LinkedIn, learning Microsoft Learn, various different things to self-educate myself. I'm also an instructor within something called the Generative AI Academy, which is going to be released next month, where we offer tailored training around things like Microsoft Copilot, or if you've got a need for an AI strategy or direction, we're going to offer training through that piece. I've defined AI strategies for public sector and private sector, so financial services in banks, but also for public services, CIPA, and global and local organisations. Again, as I said, no one can be an expert in this, but I think I'm qualified as much as a number of others to delve into these fields. I always bracket these out as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation, and it will become clear. And again, my steer up front is, if anyone ever says to you AI or artificial intelligence, you then say, well, which type do you mean? And if they can't tell you, then they don't know, in essence, what they're maybe talking about. If they say a generative AI, great. But in the world of artificial intelligence, context here is king. And as you can rightly see, as I said, if you're a farmer, you can Google this later, ask what a farmer thinks about artificial intelligence. It's not artificial intelligence. So an army marches on its stomach. So when Alistair set up the Scottish Tech Army, I'm not sure if he had this in his mind, generative AI marches on its data and its learning models. So I'm inquisitive by nature, as my sister on the call will maybe testify to. When I used to get things, I would take them apart to understand them, but then maybe wasn't able to put them back together. The same thing I applied to technology, whether it's cloud, whether it's enterprise resource planning, or indeed anything to do with artificial intelligence. So I'm going to ask questions as we go along. I don't have to come off mute to answer them. It's really a case of putting in your answers into Zoom, because it'll then guide the channel. Charlotte has also well, she has volunteered. I've maybe volunteered her, but Jean also volunteered, and a number of others. I'm going to do a live demo at the end where I'm going to take a LinkedIn article and I'm going to create a synthetic podcast in probably 3 clicks, 4 clicks, take about a minute, 2 minutes to do it, to create a sort of very believable podcast. And there's sort of good things about that, and there's bad things about that. So generative AI, this is what I'm going to cover today. I'll rifle through these fairly quickly. I don't want to do death by PowerPoint. So again, this is just what the agenda was in terms of the meeting. So I'm telling you about it. So this is my first poll. So interesting poll here is, when was artificial intelligence invented? So I'm going to just jump to the Zoom chat to see if there's any initial reactions to that. So any answers, or anyone willing to come on and say what they think is the answer to this question? We've got a couple of messages coming in. So 3, Charlotte thinks 3. That's a good answer. There's no wrong answers here. So we're getting a bit of a consensus with 3. That's good. 1950, good. 4, okay. Someone thinks 4, machine learning. Okay, good. Give it a few seconds just to run this. Okay, 4 and 5. Oh, 5. Someone's picked 5. Who's picked 5? Let me name check them. That's a good answer as well. So, okay, so no one's thought that AI was invented in 2022 with OpenAI, which is great, because some people do think that actually happened before OpenAI and generative AI and ChatGPT existed, that artificial intelligence is new. And again, this isn't ageist or in any way derogatory. It's just we all learn at different times, and we have been around on this great earth a long time at different times. So I think the answer is 5, because they're all forms of artificial intelligence. I maybe give some clues away. So 1930s, lots of people were dealing with the concepts of machine learning before the technology was there. Charles Babbage and others. So again, this isn't a history lesson. Go to school for some of that one. 1950s, yes, Alan Turing with the Turing test, and that was more around interpretive AI. Part of the challenge here with artificial intelligence is always there's far too many terms, which I'll touch on in a second. Then we have Watson with their deep learning, and if you remember, or you're old enough to remember, Garry Kasparov being beaten by a computer in terms of chess. So that's a long time ago. That's 30 years ago, and then lots of things happened interim with that one. Everything developing, data science, models for weather prediction, lots of various different things happening in the three spheres of generative AI, artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, etc., to get us to this point. So a good range of answers, but I'm glad no one, even if you did pick number one, there's reasons why you picked that, and there's no wrong answers in these polls. It's just to get a sense, which we can help tailor and get some questions at the end. So a rather busy slide, but that part of the problem with artificial intelligence as a whole is it is a busy world. Now, if you were at university maybe today and you did an artificial intelligence or data science course, you would learn all the theory of big data, of statistics, of deep learning, of artificial intelligence, of business intelligence, natural language processing, cognitive computing. The list is almost endless. What I see in the industry, as in the IT industry, financial services, public sector, is the term artificial intelligence is used as an umbrella to cover all the things that we talked about on the previous slide, whether that be generative AI, whether it be machine learning, whether it be either robotic process automation. And again, I'll explain a little bit more about what these terms are. So I produced this in previous roles just to simplify things for an organization. So to understand, to break down this large beast of artificial intelligence. And I came up with sort of these 4 definitions of, well, there's generative AI, but what does generative artificial intelligence mean? This is about creating a new view. You can see the words yourself, whether you ask the tool, whether it's ChatGPT or DeepSeek or your chosen tool, to create some new content from an existing source, whether that's text to image, text to video. Generative AI is very popular. Hundreds of millions of users using it on a daily basis. So that's one sphere. Then we've got, I would call it the more productivity AI, maybe the less interesting, the less flashy, the less press. It doesn't get as much press, is around automation. So massive studies from things like the Alan Turing Institute, the Tony Blair Institute, around removing lots and lots of time from lots and lots of different manual processes. So that's where it takes you into the world of process automation, whether that be benefit claims, whether that be payroll, lots of work in that space. Doesn't get the press of generative AI, but actually that's where a lot of the value and the productivity side of it is. Then you have sort of workplace AI. So what tools are we using in the workplace? Well, I'm in the workplace today. I've already used AI, artificial intelligence tools, probably 3 times, 4 times, a combination of Microsoft Copilot. You may have heard of those. I've used Otter AI, which is a meeting assistant. This call as well is using AI, whether you knew it or not, to do noise cancellation. So if someone sits behind me, Zoom, whether it's Teams, whether it's Zoom, whether it's Google Meet, they all have elements of machine learning that know when a dog barks to try and cancel that noise out. So you're using artificial intelligence, whether you like it or not, or whether you know it or not. You don't have to just be the driver of using artificial intelligence with ChatGPT or OpenAI to be using it. It's being used in your products just now. And then you've got customer AI. So if you're in the place of a customer-facing role, you may well be employing elements of artificial intelligence to support the workflow, whether it be chatbots. Again, I've got a couple of examples later in the slide deck. So that's the sort of bracket there around the different realms. And again, if there's any questions come out of this, please drop them in the chat. I won't address them as we go through, but again, we can come back to them at the start. Now, Kane, this one's for you. So he challenged me, he said, how do I get the term sedimentary rocks into my presentation? And this is my attempt at doing that. So I use storytelling all the time to explain complex scenarios, of which generative AI can be one. So my steer here is that, take 2 very disparate concepts. If no one particularly understands generative AI, pick on something that they do understand, whether that be geology, whether that be pet grooming, whether that be hairdressing, and try and make an analogy between the 2, and that switch on receptors in your own neural network, as in your own brain, to sort of understand that concept quicker, and you'll learn much more around that particular thing. So the scenario here is, sedimentary rock's been around for a long time, lots of layers of rock, whereas generative AI, trained on massive sets of data, lots of layers of information, lots of patterns in the data, hasn't been around nearly as long as, obviously, sedimentary rock formations. But again, this is how I do in my sort of part-time social role around making artificial intelligence concepts much more accessible, much more sustainable, and definitely safer. So hope you like that. Kane, and then this nods to what I'm going to do later, so I don't have to ask for a volunteer because we've got Charlotte. So I always start with the risks of artificial intelligence before I start with the rewards. I tell people all the bad things that can happen if you don't have a workplace artificial intelligence policy or have a strategy. Don't allow your staff just to go off and use ChatGPT. There's lots of corporate stories of Samsung losing mobile phone intellectual property to China. Lots of use cases in this space. So again, another top tip is ask your people manager, ask your head of IT for what is our policy on generative AI? Can I use any tool I want? Is there a corporate policy to use Copilot versus OpenAI or another tool? That's a very big thing. So what I'm going to do here is I've created this synthetic TV show called Tomorrow's Mind. It doesn't exist. This is all synthetic. The picture's synthetic. That's created using a Google Gemini generative AI tool. And again, I'm going to turn it over to the audience here to get some sort of user interaction. So you're now all participants on the game show. The next few slides, I'm going to ask you for bot or not. So not quite Bruce Forsyth for those of you of that generation, but certainly bot. The picture I'm going to show you, is it created by generative AI and hence synthetic, or is it a real picture? Now, I've tested a few of these things out on LinkedIn and the test channel, and a few surprising results. But again, no right answers, no wrong answers, no judgment. It's just top of mind. Have a look at it, and I'll come back to some of the pictures and explain some of the telltale signs. Really important. And I thought I saw Lee Munson on the call doing lots of great research around deep fakes, which gets a lot of press. This helps you spot the deep fake. So again, this will educate your deep fake receptor. Maybe won't make you as cynical as I am around things, but I certainly view pictures in a very different way now, knowing the technologies that are in place. So over to you guys. I'll jump again to the Zoom channel coming in. Have a look at this for 20, 30 seconds and tell me, is this bot or not? I'll see some of the answers coming in. Bot. Overwhelming bot at the moment. Look at the text. Yeah, it's good. If you want to qualify why you think it's a bot, that's good as well. I'll explain what I think indicates a bot. But if you think that there's particular aspects of the picture that are just wrong, same smile on everyone's face. Yes, good. Anything about the people looking very similar, that like they're all related from one family, for instance. Another one. Same smile. Yep, they all look the same. Hands. That's a good one. Hands. Generative AI really struggles to create hands. Same smile. Okay, so I'll pause on that one. Thanks for that. So lots of good consensus there about, yes, this is indeed created by generative AI. I think I used Google's Gemini tool, but it could have been any tool. The one thing that no one maybe spotted was the World Potato Conference at the back banner. It's not spelt properly, for one. Generative AI really struggles to create accurate text. And I don't believe there's a World Potato Conference as there is. I'm not sure the people and the participants would be dressed in that particular way with suits on. Maybe there would be more of the farmers that we talked about earlier. Maybe I'm doing a disservice to potato farmers for any potato farmers that are joining the call. So again, it all comes down to context. Lots of deepfakes examples, lots of good research from things like the Information Security Forum, lots of LinkedIn groups talking about deepfakes, spotting deepfakes, really important. Don't believe what you see. Look for the telltale signs and the hands, the eyes blinking, and other things. I'm sure other people have got really good examples as well. But the more you put into the Zoom chat, the more people learn. And again, we can follow up through the Slack channel. How am I doing for time? Doing for time. So next one. Same idea, bot or no bot. This one's maybe a little bit easier to guess, but again, getting good engagement on this one. I've maybe given the name away with this one. This is a little bit of a nod to my Dundee heritage, the full shebang. I'm sure Mr. Galloway will appreciate this. So this one is indeed a generative AI bot. If I'd not given you maybe some of the context up front, showed you the previous picture, you might be looking at the picture on the right and thinking, well, how can I tell that one? Now, I think that's a harder one to spot because the hands look not too bad. Yes, it's a picture, but you've probably, or a number of you will have tried to create images, create me a picture of a cat called Pat on a mat with a hat, and it creates something. These tools are sufficiently advanced that they're almost like magic. If I can quote Arthur C. Clarke, or be so bold as to quote him, they're fascinating in terms of the way they work and the ability to create content, whether that's training content, whether that's pictures, whether it's videos, whether it's images, whether it's now music. There's so many generative AI tools out there, lots of dangers that we'll touch on as well. Excuse me. So moving on to the next one. This one, is this a bot or not? So is this real or is this fabricated? I'll have a look for some answers coming in. A few notes, which
Looks like Steve's had some Wi-Fi issues. Hopefully he'll be back.
Hi, sorry, I think connection dropped there on my back. Charlotte, give me a nod.
Yeah, you're back, yeah.
That's fine. Sorry about that.
It's not sharing, yeah.
Yeah, I'll share again. Never, was it they say never work with animals, family, or children, or live demos? No disrespect, my sister. Okay, so bot or no bot, are we getting any consensus coming through? Where's my messages? Charlotte, maybe you're able to see the chat easier than I am. What were we saying? Were we saying this is a, yeah, Steve became a bot. Very good. Yeah, I'm not really here, yeah.
There's a lot of bots, but
because I think a lot of bots. So good mixture here. No, that's good as well. So this is actually, well, I won't give the secret away because I'll come to that slide. Let me make sure I'm sharing. Okay, sorry. Just give me a thumbs up again when it starts to share. Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Right, so moving on. Bot or no bot? Now this, I can't claim credit for this. I can't find the author of the picture, but hopefully he's not on the call and he can claim some pounds from me if I'm using this. So Forth Bridges, for those in Edinburgh, I used to go over the rail bridge every day when I lived down there. Obviously 3 bridges there. Is that bot or not? Again, I'll refer back to the chat. What are we getting in? So lots of notes. So hopefully some people that maybe still go over this bridge every day, maybe even the person that took the pictures on the call. So a couple of bots, a couple of notes. Okay, conscious of time. So this is indeed not a bot. This is a real picture. And I will find the person that did that and give them due credit, because it's certainly not my photography skills. I'd be lucky if I could get one bridge in. And this one's a famous one for various reasons. And again, no sort of nod to religion here, but again, same idea. Is this bot or not? I like the comments about no clouds in the sky in Scotland. Very good. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure the picture was maybe touched up after it was taken. So a good mix here, I think, of nots and bots. So some folks think this is a real picture. Now, I checked my sources on this. This is indeed generative AI. This was created, I think, about 18 months ago. There's lots of convincing nods that it is real, i.e. people in the background wearing the similar style, but I'm assured by my own research this is indeed generative AI created, which, lots of these things we're seeing in the press and seeing it in different news channels using sources of information. But if anyone's got any direction that if they think this is real, please quote the source, and I'll stand absolutely correct. It's more than happy to be that way. And again, bringing it back home, back in Dundee, this is Victoria and Albert Museum, or is it the Millennium Falcon, as someone asked me the other day. So again, same script. Halfway through, we've got half an hour, so we're good for time. So again, bot or not. I expect my sister and my nephew to get this 100% right. If not, in trouble. Not, lots of nots. Good. Yep, this is indeed correct. This is a real picture. I'm sure it's a drone. I've forgotten the chap's second name, but it's a guy in Dundee, does lots of aerial photography, chap Craig. Again, I'll share the name of it. Lots of fantastic photography around Dundee, if that's your thing. So there's my sort of answers, if you will. So no such thing as the World Potato Conference that I know of. It'd be quite an interesting one to attend. Sadly, there is no US TV show called The Full Shebang, or indeed Tomorrow's Mind. Not that I would ever want to maybe appear on it. It is a real Temis demo with Andre Agassi, if you remember him, and Roger Federer in Dubai, the Burj Al Arab, which I think I was never had enough money to stay there, but I think I went in for a look. Yes, it is a real photo of the Forth Bridges, as it's collectively called. And no, the Pope hasn't joined. He's 17. That is indeed generative AI. And yes, Dundee Victoria and Albert Museum, which I highly recommend going to look see. So I'm going to try something here and see if it works. Oh, I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to just stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to try and run a little video. This is, I saw in a couple of the chats, just bear with me, sorry, around, we'll call them rogue process automation or chatbots. So we're probably all used to or familiar with tools like chatbots for car insurance or whatever. Sorry, just see if I can work this through. Sorry, I'm just going to try and share this. Just bear with me. So this is an example. I'll just try and share this again. Hopefully the audio will play. If not, you can just follow along. But in essence, this is a chatbot gone wrong. It's a YouTube clip that you can watch. So I'll just play this. This was DPD delivery, a chatbot gone rogue. So I'll play this and see if it works.
Terra's AI Copilot troubleshoots any device, runs diagnostics, and provides actionable solutions.
Yeah, that's what DPD's chatbot said to a customer after it had even made up a poem about how bad its own company was. Ashley was looking to find his parcel from IKEA that was sent back to the sender but didn't have much luck, so thought he'd see what the chatbot could do.
I was literally just kind of at my wit's end of what to do, and then it very obligingly told me this joke, and I thought, oh, that's weird, I wonder what else you can do. And this amazing poem came forth about a DPD chatbot who wasn't able to do anything. It was quite amazing.
It went along the lines of, there once was a chatbot named DPD who was useless at providing help. DPD was a waste of time and a customer's worst nightmare, finishing with a one day DPD was finally shut down and everyone rejoiced. Not the best poem, but we'll allow it. It appeared to even disregard its own rules and started swearing, and even started dissing its own employer, adding, DPD is the worst delivery firm in the world. I would never recommend them to anyone. Ouch.
Like this personality coming back at me from the phone. I think my girlfriend thought I was mad, but it was just quite amusing, really.
It even finished with this lovely haiku that went, DPD is a useless chatbot that can't help you. Don't bother calling them. Most importantly, did Ashley get his parcel?
I've heard nothing. All I know is that it's been sent back. I think perhaps they might hold it hostage now. I wouldn't blame them. That's totally fine. That's probably on me.
DPD.
So hopefully you can still hear me okay, Charlotte? Yeah, good. So hopefully that gives you a sense, and I don't know if anyone has either seen that, and again, apologies if you do work with DPD. Every delivery I've ever had has worked fine. So again, different experiences, different things will, I'm sure, happen. But again, this was a fairly recent example where I saw an element of artificial intelligence, albeit this one was automation being employed for customer service roles. So again, comes back to that piece around be careful of giving over too many things to your single generative AI or automation tool with any human oversight. Otherwise, you could get into some serious trouble. You know, your business could be affected, and lots of bad things can happen. So let me just reshare my screen. We'll carry on. Hopefully we're okay for time. Let me share that one. Okay, put it back in presentation. So again, any comments in the chat, absolutely fine. So this is one I borrowed from Mr. Galloway, who I see on the call. So this comes back to just because you can doesn't mean you should. Wise words from Neil. Generative AI is out there doesn't mean you have to use it or need to use it. You know, a lot of cases it's people want to use it because it's fun or it's new, something nice, new and flashy. But do you actually really need to use that new generative AI tool, whether that's text to image, whether it's taking a picture of your fridge to come up with ingredients? I'm sure Jean, who's on the call, who's a master cook, will be using, you know, real intelligence, real human intelligence to come up with recipes rather than relying on generative AI. But it has its uses, obviously. Lots of products out there, time savings, and it's an interesting tool. But do you actually need to use anything generative AI? Are you looking just for AI-enabled search? You know, why can't Google search give you what you need to do? Don't use, you know, the wrong tool for the wrong job. Or sometimes, you know, that knowledge is in your head already, or indeed, you know, you might just need to use Microsoft Excel, or maybe it's a non-technical solution to the problem. So don't walk around with your generative AI hammer of choice, looking for nails to hit. Think about what the problem is, and then pick the tool appropriately. Otherwise, you know, you'll end up with a proliferation of these tools and wonder why you're so reliant on them, and you become so reliant on them you may become addicted. And that's again another whole story that Gartner have talked about. Future of AI may lead to addiction problems, which is another worrying aspect to this. So coming back to topic, choose the right artificial generative AI model for your needs. I'm a big fan of Swiss Army knives. Auntie gave me one a long time ago. So the idea of a Swiss hammer, as I said before. So I'm going to touch on the sort of perils here. A little bit more sort of structure to the pictures here. The perils first of generative AI, and then I'll sort of build up. Talking about things like marketing, I'll touch on mental health, good things, bad things, AI for content creation, and again, hopefully, if I've got time, I'll create the podcast at the end. So again, a wordy slide, but I did some weekend thinking around the different generative AI, we'll call them co-driver tools. Again, the picture is created by generative AI, as is the slogan. So a little bit of marketing. Stay sharp with Swiss Army knife, co-driver. What does that mean? Well, again, it comes back to start with the problem or task. What is the business problem you're trying to solve? Is it a business problem or is it a personal problem? Do you need to paint the shed? Do you need to install some new software at work? What is the business problem? Understand the B first, way before you get near the A of artificial intelligence. Does your problem need generative AI? If you think it does, then question yourself and say, is it for work? Is it for personal? And again, this is my list of sort of yes, no factors to come up with what's the right tool. If it's work, then is there a corporate generative AI policy? You know, ask your manager, ask your boss, ask your IT department, ask your HR director, because workplace AI for me doesn't sit with IT, it sits with HR, interestingly or not. And ask them, if not, then why isn't there one? Why isn't there a steer? Because now you're all much more hopefully aware after this call of the bad things that can happen. Say, well, why don't we have a workplace artificial intelligence policy for generative AI? Ask that simple question for a complex topic. Once you've decided you absolutely need to have generative AI, look at the requirements, look at the options that are out there. Is it text to image? Is it to create policies? Is it to create marketing content because you're in a marketing role? Is it, and again, I'm focusing here on generative AI, then look at the various tools that are out there, and there's a proliferation of them. I've really focused for this on the sort of 5 main ones that I've seen and used. So OpenAI, ChatGPT that we're maybe all aware of, Microsoft Copilot, Gemini from Google, DeepSeek and Meta's AI tool as well. All very visible, all very perceived to be free, all very secure, you would think, until you actually start looking at them. So in my previous roles, security architect, solution architect, I had to look into these tools. I had to read the terms and conditions. So any website, scroll down to the bottom, look for your privacy statement, look for terms and conditions, look for things like ISO standards, look for general data protection register, look for data processor. If it doesn't have any of those, do not touch the tool. Do not put your email address into that until you're confident of knowing where that email address is going to go to, and then wonder why in a month's time you're getting bombarded with spam emails. Well, that's maybe one of the reasons why. So whilst generative AI, very much personal choice, these are my sort of things that I've gone through from my dealings. And again, I encourage everyone to be inquisitive, understand what the tool does, what it doesn't do, and you'll come up with your own viewpoints. You'll form your own opinion and decide on what's the right tool or tools for yourself. So back to the polls. Feels like a snap election here. So how do you choose the right generative AI tool? So I've looked at them all fairly in detail, apart from one. I'll explain why in a second. So again, into the chat, which of these popular generative, give them the full title, general purpose generative AI tools is the only one with an age check. So when you go to the site and you want to register for that, which of those 5 has an actual check around your age? It doesn't say what age you are, or it asks you to put in your year of birth. So back to the chat. What are we getting coming in? So we're getting number 1, I think. Okay. So a bit of a mixture, which is good. Again, I think there's a right answer here. I'll just let folks have another go of it. Yep, Lee, well done. Yeah, 4 controlled by Facebook's age policy. That's actually the correct answer. So Meta was the only one that had an age check. So when you go to either the website, and I would always recommend before you download an app, go to the actual website of the product to see it's genuine. There's lots of fake apps actually on app stores, which is interesting because Apple and Google and other mobile devices should stop a lot of that, but there are fake mobile apps out there. Same rules apply in terms of going to the website. Scroll down to the bottom, look for the terms and conditions, take time to read the privacy statement. Certainly in the work context, ask your IT department, ask your data privacy officer, or if you're a large multinational, if you have a chief information or chief security officer, ask these people. And I know Lee can give me there's lots more guidance on elements of this one. So my main focus has been using Microsoft's Copilot tools, partly because I use Microsoft products at work. I use a Google device and an Android device, so I have on my own phone a mixture of these. There's lots of new ones. There's Mistral Le Chat from France, which again has got some benefits and drawdowns. But again, in terms of this, what the answer to this one, so the only one with an actual age check is 4. And again, I'll delve into a little bit here. So lots of words here, but again, you can watch hopefully this back on the replay. So this is me forming my opinions of these tools based on my knowledge sphere or my experience over a number of years doing various different roles, various different products. I recommend always you look at the tools for what you want to use it for. Yes, there's general purpose generative AI tools that we've talked about here. There's a whole hundreds, if not thousands, of other tools to do text to music, text to image, text to video. Not all of them are as secure as other ones. So try and understand where your data is going. As soon as you put in your email, again, don't be surprised if you've not done your own due diligence that you will be getting spam. You're potentially opening up, if you're using a work email address, you could be opening up your organization's to further spam or further attacks or cyber threats. And I lived through a cyber attack or the outpourings of a cyber attack at SEPA, the Scottish Environment Agency. They were very pro artificial intelligence, very pro data science, but had lived with all the scars of a cyber attack, and it's not a pretty sight for anyone that's gone through that. So lots of respect for that agency. So again, I do my own general diligence. I have actually employed generative AI tools to do my own due diligence. So you write something in generative AI, which you may have done using ChatGPT or Copilot. It's called a prompt. That's how you converse with the generative AI, which we can show you, or we can share some information on prompt courses, which are very good. Lots of different ways in doing that, but you ask it, or you ask your general purpose generative AI tool of choice once you've decided on one to then do your due diligence on any other one that's out there, or ask your security team, ask your solution architect, ask your IT team to help with some of this one. I also deep dived into Google, Amazon, and Microsoft's sustainability and environment credentials. So they're all very different in terms of water use for cooling data centers, for carbon emission uses. Yes, you would think Amazon, Google, and Microsoft have similar stories. Yes, they do. Not all of them are the same. And then when we go into some of the other tools, maybe the lesser known tools or these freemium versions where you subscribe and they get you hooked on the free version and then ask you to sort of go past a paywall for further usage after 30 days or more features. They are not all as secure as each other, and a number of folks I can see on the chat will hopefully nod and testify to that one. So, I have my own sort of Swiss Army knife set of AI assistants, and again, I've shown you some of these here. If anyone wants any further advice around what generative AI tool they should be doing, or using, or how to select their own ones, there's lots of research I can share with you, a few LinkedIn posts that I've done in the past. Lots of products that you're already using, whether it's from Oracle, from SAP, Salesforce, HubSpot, etc., are all embedding generative AI and other elements of artificial intelligence in their products. So again, you're using these products almost by default and osmosis by the very nature of how they're embedded. And again, the pictures to the right are just some very quick screen grabs of the age check for Meta AI. A really good, it's very visible. I'm not a massive fan of Facebook for various reasons. The Meta tool is quite interesting, the AI tool, because it allows you to create chatbots, whether it's about your football team, whether it's about a particular interest. You can have create a chatbot in seconds and have a long conversation about a particular topic, which I do on a regular basis with some friends. So how are we getting on? Right, what are the risks and opportunities? So told you a lot about what I've seen, told you about how to pick products, the sort of first two topics. Now we're into the sort of a lot of the perils and promise, and I'm going to speed up here just because I want to get to the live demo at the end. So flashing up the risks, flashing up the opportunities. Lots of risks, some of them we know about, some of them we don't know about. Lots of unknowns in this space. And again, you can pause the video when it's on replay and delve into these ones. Lots of opportunities here, lots of free courses. I very much recommend the Living with AI. That's not Living with Ty, that's something different. Living with AI is Scottish Alliance, Scottish AI Alliance branded course, fantastic. You get a certificate at the end. Microsoft are also doing a world record attempt on the 8th of May around the most people doing generative AI training in a particular hour, which is interesting. Become an AI mental health first aider. Lots of generative AI can help with elements like loneliness or helping you get advice around mental health issues, but it can also degrade mental health performance. As I said, generative AI can be addictive in very nature, and that obviously raises a number of red flags. But again, talk to myself as the enterprise architect AI if you want to know any more. So let's speed up around this. So capabilities, challenges, and creative potential. So these are some of the health benefits, and again, I won't read these out in detail. So on this is a screen grab of the way I work. I've got a mixture there of apps. I've got my Spotify to give me a buzz because I like to listen to some music, Messenger to converse with friends, I've got my calendar to organise it, and then I've got the apps in the same place. Even just putting your apps on the same page on your phone actually adapts how you actually do things and the way you work. So again, have a think about where your apps are on your mobile phone. Really small trick, nothing specific to generative AI. Work at your own pace with these generative AI tools. Take your time, don't rush forward. They're here forever. It's not a case that they're only here for a limited period. AI in many forms will, outlive me for sure. And it's not for 8 billionaires after all to use. It's for the 8 billion people on the planet to make use of. Set your own screen limits. Lots of research around social media impacting on things. I try and stay off these apps as far as I can, but I can see the addictive nature of them. So be aware of your own signs. Have a look at your own usage of them, and sort of limit yourself to them before it becomes too late. So this is where we get to hopefully Charlotte's interesting piece of the demo. So this is a tool from Google, which I can again do some further training on, and this allows you to very quickly bring up a generative AI form of tool to create lots of different things. One of the things it creates is a synthetic podcast. So I'm going to try, if we're okay for time, which we are. Let me bring this one up. So stop sharing. So let me reshare. So this is one I created earlier in true Blue Peter fashion, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a new one from scratch. So I've created a number of these in the past. You can see them here, various different flavors of different podcast style things. David Stott, an old hockey friend, on there as well. So what I'm going to do here is jump to my notes. I'm going to quickly grab out the Charlotte, sorry, are you quickly able to send me the link to your St. Patrick's Day post?
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry about that. Just stick it in the chat, that would be fine.
There we go, it's in the chat now.
Lovely, thank you. See, I'm much more organized than I am. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm effectively going to, and again, you can do this with lots of different things. You can point this at a YouTube clip, so it'll be interesting after this to ask this synthetic podcast to review my own YouTube ramblings in this call. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly do this in. So that's one click. It's going to go off and render and think through that picture. And it's pulled out what that is. So Charlotte created a really nice post around, as you can see there, skilled volunteering, creating opportunities and making a difference, which I thought was a really good read, which you can delve into because the link's in the chat. Worth a follow. So I'm going to do something here. I'm going to just very quickly customize this, and I'm going to say mention Charlotte and Scottish Tech Army. I'm just going to let that generate. I'm just going to delve into the questions. So come back to that hopefully in about a minute's time. So what that's doing is it's going off reading through that post, and you'll see the output of it hopefully in about 90 seconds. Did we get any questions coming through, Charlotte? Or
No, not yet.
nothing specific yet, but I can go back. That's fine. As I say, I'm very conscious I've rattled through an awful lot there. As we get towards the end, I'm sure folks will start to drop off, but again, hopefully we'll stay on for this recording. Excuse me, as you see that it's rendering, I'll just explain a little bit more about the tool. So you can ask it to look at someone's LinkedIn profile. I've downloaded a little bit narcissistic, but downloaded my LinkedIn profile. Well, there you go. It's 4 minutes in. I'm just going to play this. I'll play maybe just a minute or so of it. Again, I can share of it, but it just gives you a sense of what it's trying to do and the discussion that it has between two very polished US, we'll call them US TV presenters. So let's let this play for a minute or so and then we'll wrap up.
Ever get the feeling that some folks just kind of, I don't know, fall into awesome opportunities, like they've got this secret formula for making their own luck?
Yeah, definitely. You see it all the time.
Well, we're going to dig into a LinkedIn post today from the Scottish tech army. Actually, that gives a pretty interesting perspective on that whole idea.
Right on. We've been taking a good look at what they have to say about skilled volunteering, and it's really cool how they present it as not just like, giving back, but as this powerful way to grow both personally and professionally.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to unpack today.
Sounds good to me.
So the main idea the Scottish Tech Army, or STA, is putting out there is that actually using your skills to volunteer isn't just some feel-good thing you do on the side. It's a real way to create the very opportunities you might be sitting around waiting for.
And they don't just say it. They've got some great examples to prove their point.
Yeah, for sure.
They highlight 3 people whose stories really make this idea come alive. Like, take Rob Armitage from NHS 24. He started out volunteering in software development with the STA.
Okay, I'm following.
The really interesting part is how that experience directly led him to move into project management roles within the NHS.
So I'll just pause that there because I'm conscious we're running out of time.